David here with Figboot on Pens, back again with another fountain pen review. While it is nice to review pens from familiar companies, I also enjoy discovering smaller creators. There's some smaller one-person shops that create some fantastic work. And the smaller creator I'll be discussing today is the Mythic pen company. And the pen I have to show you is called the Aeschylus. What I'm going to do today is go over the parts and features of the Aeschylus, talk about what I care for and what I don't care for about the pen. I'll show some measurements, size comparisons, and provide a writing sample. Thanks go out to the Mythic Pen Company for providing this pen on loan for review. Brad Owens is the gentleman behind the brand. He is based out of Milner, Georgia, which is a very small town of about 600 people located about an hour south of Atlanta. Brad is relatively new to the pen making field. He founded the company back in 2019, but in the short time that it's been in business, he has begun making a name for himself. Like the rest of us, he was very much looking forward to attending some pen shows in 2020 to further expose his brand, but as with many things this year, that did not quite happen. Hopefully, things will be under control next year and we can get back to attending shows. We'll see. The pen arrives in this box. The Mythic logo was designed by Matthew Morris, otherwise known as Hey Matthew on social media. He does some great work. Inside we have a little Mythic pen button, and then we have the pen. It typically arrives with a leather sleeve from Night Heron Leather. Now, I'm actually going to be reviewing some items from Night Heron Leather in the somewhat near future, and they included a sleeve in what they sent me. This sleeve is similar in design to what arrives with this pen, but what's included with this pen is black leather and has the Mythic Pen Company embossed on it. So here is the pen, the Mythic Pen Company Aeschylus. Aeschylus is considered the father of Greek tragedy. He lived from 523 BC to 456 BC, which is odd when you think about it, because the years go backwards, not forwards. But he wrote around 100 plays, many of which are still studied and performed today. Brad is big into Greek mythology. He felt that since he was creating writing instruments, he could pay tribute to the actual writers who created and expounded upon the lore. The pen is made from two separate resins. The cap as well as the section that we'll see in a second are made from Jonathan Brooks' infamous primary manipulation material. This is a fascinating material. It's comprised of 8 colors, but every batch is going to be unique. A different color takes over as dominant, so no two pens of this material are ever going to look the same. I like the diverse layering that you get with this material. The color blend and swirling changes depending on the angle you look at it. Each of these looks are on the same cap. The end of the cap is flat, and it angles up at a fairly even angle until about this point where for maybe the last 3/4 of an inch it is straight. There is a small step down to the barrel, which is made from a black acrylic resin and is straight until you get to about this point here where it tapers down to the end of the barrel, which is flat like the top of the cap. While I like the primary manipulation material, I do care for the contrast that the solid black barrel provides. The cap unscrews with a rotation and a half with triple start threads, and underneath we have a number 6 Yovo nib, which is available in extra fine, fine, medium, broad, as well as a 1.1 stub. Mythic has partnered up with Gina Celerino from Custom Nib Studio for any custom grinds you might desire. Here Gina is at the DC shows last year. She studied under John Madashaw, and here she is doing a cursive italic grind on one of my Leonardo Momento Zeros. She does some great work. And here's a look at the plastic feed. The section is made from the same material as the cap. I think that was a good choice. You have the contrast while the pen is capped, and then you still have the contrast while you're actually using the pen. The section is slightly concave, and the narrowest portion is set a bit far back. Now, I personally prefer my sections a bit thicker, and I tend to hold them closer to the nib, and on this particular section, even though I'm not gripping it in the shallow, it's comfortable, and I don't feel that the section is pulling me towards the back. At the end of the section, we have the threads, and then a fairly steep step up to the barrel. It's a bit more pronounced than I typically care for. This pen is not postable, which is fine. It's plenty long and light enough to fit comfortably in my hand. This is a cartridge converter pen. It accepts standard international cartridges and a converter is provided. With this pen being all acrylic, it would be a decent pen to eyedropper if you wanted that additional ink capacity. Just make sure you apply the appropriate amount of silicone grease to the threads. The Mythic pen company Aeschylus is available in a number of materials and sells for $185, which I feel is a reasonable price for a handmade pen of this quality. As I mentioned, I love the primary manipulation material, and I enjoy the contrast between that and the black barrel. I feel it looks sharp, and as you'll see in the writing sample, it performs nicely as well. I'll put a link in the notes below where you can check out this model as well as the other models available on the Mythic Pen site. Those other models range from $125 to $225, and Brad also accepts commissions for custom pens, so the site is worth checking out. Thanks again go out to Brad for providing this pen on loan for review. Now it is time for some measurements, size comparisons, and the aforementioned writing sample. Here we go with some size comparisons for the Mythic pen company Aeschylus. Since primary manipulation is a Jonathan Brooks material, I decided we'd compare it with another Jonathan Brooks pen. Then here it is with a Pilot Metropolitan, and here it is with a Conklin Durograph. And in regard to some other comparisons, here it is with an Aurora Optima, a TWSBI Eco, and a Lamy All-Star. In regard to some uncapped comparisons, here it is with the All-Star, and here it is with the Durograph, and the Optima. So here we have the Mythic Pen Company. And this is called the Aeschylus, which is Aeschylus. And this is a medium steel nib. And the ink that I'm using today is Diamine Poppy Red. It's one of my favorite reds. This is what it looks like. It's one that really pops. Here it is with another bold red, which is Thornton's red. And then here's another Diamine red. This is called Firestorm red. That's somewhat similar in color, but it has some shimmer included in it as well. And while I'm not a huge fan of shimmer inks, I do care for this Firestorm red. I think that the shimmer just adds a little bit to it and isn't too dominant. This is what the bottle looks like. This is one of their 30 milliliter bottles. Nice little bottle. I do like that they include the name of the ink on top. It makes it really easy when you have a number of these bottles in your collection to understand what is in each bottle. And in regard to the rest of the writing sample, I find this medium Yovo nib to be very nice. It is a bit on the bold side, and that as far as the bold side of medium, you can't get a little bit of line variation out of there. And I think that the ink flow on this particular nib is decent. In regard to reverse writing, it's a little sharp, but it gets the job done. And then in regard to some fast writing, there's no issue whatsoever. So there we have the Mythic pen company Aeschylus. That it's a smaller company that I think is worth checking out. Besides this model, they have a number of other interesting models on their site, so I would encourage you to take a look. So until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.